You are listening to Lone Star Community Radio on 104.5 KCZWLP Conroe and 106.1 KZCCLP Conroe and worldwide on irlonestar.com.
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Rick Schissler. I'm your host, and you are listening to the Weekly Business Hour. Glad to have you with us today. I think we've got a wonderful show put together, and I hope you'll stay and listen throughout the show. The Weekly Business Hour, as those who are regular listeners know, is where Montgomery County and currently businesses throughout the world via the internet come to talk about the latest in business news, ideas to improve their business, and to be part of conversations that can make a real difference in your business even today. I want to remind you that the show is being broadcast on Facebook Live, YouTube Live as well, so just go to either one of those, look up the Weekly Business Hour page or channel, and click on it, and they'll have a button there, and you hit it, and you can watch as well as listen to the show. It's a neat way to participate as well, because you can see what we're doing while we're talking, so it's lots of fun. I also want to mention, before we get rolling here this morning, that the show today is sponsored by Keith Acano and Closing Strong, LLC. Keith Acano is a CEO, coach, and business mentor, and his company, Closing Strong, is where they cater to you and the growth of your business. Keith works with owners, CEOs of privately held companies to help them use purpose to make better decisions that result in having more fun and making more money. I've known Keith for a number of years, and I can tell you, he has the experience and he has the background to help guide your business to the next level. Contact him at www.closingstrong.com. Thank you, Keith. We appreciate your support for the show. I want to remind you, too, during the show, at any time or even after the show, if you've got a question, a comment, a question about your own business even, just send me an email. Send it to that's the number 1, bestconsult.com. Send me your questions. I love to get them. We talk about them on the show from time to time. And again, appreciate your comments or thoughts about the show, either during the show or even after the show. That's bestconsult.com. Well, I'm excited today. We have a wonderful guest with us, somebody that's in the radio business as well, so they understand the medium and how to get your message out there. Linda Ballesteros, see, I warned you, Linda, is a certified franchise broker and host of All Things Franchising radio show. Her passion is the catalyst to help others through franchising to be a business owner. She achieves this by finding the up-and-coming franchise that's best suited for you and your passion. Linda, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Rick. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to your folks. Yeah.
Well, and I think what you're doing, I've met some other people in my life that were franchise brokers, but, you know, that's an interesting category because you typically are working with someone who really has never been in business?
Yeah, many of my clients are, they've been downsized one time too many. And I can certainly relate to that. Or they have just decided they just want to do something on their own. Maybe they want to not only just build a business, but they want to leave a legacy for the family. And I'm all about creating a strategy to help them with that. You know, if you go from having a job to owning a franchise, you've just virtually changed one job to the other. But if we have a strategy where we can build on that so that you can move further and further away from the day-to-day and someday leave a legacy for your kids, then that's more of a vision that I like to help people with.
Well, it makes a lot of sense. We talk about that idea on this show a lot for the business owner.
Right.
It's not just a job. My father was fond of saying, because he was an entrepreneur and over the years and built with his partner, my uncle, they built some significant businesses here in the area. And he says, typically small business is about just having a job. I mean, you're buying a job, but you own the company.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, you have to have something that you could sell. And if all you've done is bought yourself a job, you're not going to be able to sell that at the end of the day.
Yeah, there's no value being
Right.
created. And right now, we're in the midst, I understand, government statistics of thousands of businesses because owners are aging out,
Right.
hitting the magic age of 65, which is not necessarily magic, but the government statistics are kind of based on that, that people are deciding to leave their business, to sell it, to close it up. And I bump into so many people that, what do I do? What do I do with my business? And they've done nothing to prepare.
Well, what happens many times, especially in a family business, Rick, and you probably see this, is that Bob, he decides to leave corporate. He builds a business, and his wife, Mary, she handles the books. But as time goes on, little Junior, he doesn't want to take over the business. So what does Bob and Mary do with the business now? It's something that they have spent a lot of hours in. It's supported the family, so it certainly served the purpose. But little Junior may not want to do that.
And what are their options?
Well, their option certainly is to work with a business broker to sell it out, or to go to one of their competitors. And because your client base is where the value is. So to be able to merge that with a competitor might benefit everybody.
You know, we had a guest on recently, did one of our Soup to Nuts conversations, which is a 3-part series on mergers and acquisitions, and it was for small businesses.
Yeah.
And you know, you go to a competitor, at least in my experience, and they go, well, I never thought about buying a business
Right.
or, you know, merging a business. And that was an interesting discussion. I mean, how do you encourage people, if they're on the other side, and to open their eyes to a merger or an acquisition to help grow their business?
You know, Rick, it all boils down to, I think, is just building relationships. Even when you're actively growing your business, still know who your competitor is. Still don't see them as competition, but just see them as maybe an ally somewhere along the way. Know who they are. Build relationships. Good, solid relationships in the industry is good.
Yeah, I think that's important. And I think the idea of having that strategy, though, with clients, if I work with them when they start, I will have them build that strategy, or as I call it, the exit strategy from the beginning into their plan. It may be simple in the beginning, but it says, where are we going?
Eventually, it's sort of like buying a house. Eventually, you'll be selling that house, or someone will be selling that house. So, like with a business, eventually that business will be sold.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Well, let's talk about franchising. You have franchises out there. There are hundreds of franchises, I assume. Or I'm coming out of that corporate world, like you mentioned, and I can just start a business. I've got an idea. You know, maybe it's an area I worked in, maybe it isn't. Tell us about, how do we make that choice? Because to me, that's the first big choice after you decide to go into business for yourself.
Exactly. Well, I came out of a 30-plus year career in banking. And I worked in the corporate division, middle market division. So when I came out, I thought, well, I kind of know what to do here, so I can figure this out. Well, I didn't know what to do, and I couldn't figure it out. It was a very steep learning curve. So for the person that doesn't know anything about running a business, there's so many moving parts to that they don't know. Whereas with a franchise, someone's put all that together. They've put the employee manuals together. They have found the best software, the CRM program, and all you do is plug in. Many times coming out of corporate, you just don't know what you need. You certainly don't know about marketing. You certainly don't know about HR. You don't know about all the components to running a business, and someone's done that for you. So plugging into a proven system is a better way to have success.
Well, and I think you hit the nail on the head there. It's a system, it's a process, that's what it's all about. Either you create it yourself, right, or you have someone who's already done that legwork for
Exactly.
No, and I think certain people, it fits them better, right? Let's talk about that. Is the franchise for me? What does that mean to you?
So is the franchise for you? If you're someone who wants to go out and test new things, if you want to experiment with a lot of new things, that may not necessarily be, franchising may not necessarily be for you, because there are guidelines that the franchisor has set up, and down to the color of the marketing products, what you can and cannot offer. All of that is set within what's called the FDD, the Franchise Disclosure Document, that tells you what you can and cannot do. Now, if you just love to go out and try new things and bring in new products, franchising may not be for you. But if you're looking for structure, if you're looking for to have someone that you can run the flag up the flagpole if you've got a question, that's a great place, because if you're running your own business, you're on your own. You may know people that can help you, but you don't know people that know your business specifically.
One of the things I bump into when I ended up talking with people that did a franchise, and I think you really explained it well, is some of them feel like they've got their hands tied, because in a local market, at least this is the claim I've heard multiple times, things might be different than they are in headquarters in Kansas City or Philadelphia or Chicago,
Right.
or out west. And they sort of chafe under, well, I only can sell this product or that product, and we really need this product that
Right.
fits this market.
Right.
What do you tell people about that? I mean, they're bound to selling certain things, doing certain things like you mentioned.
Right, right.
But the flexibility or inflexibility of a franchise to work with local.
So the interesting thing here, Rick, is that there are what we call emerging brands. So these are franchisors, concepts that have less than 100 locations. And because they are learning as well, there's more flexibility there. So I go through a really deep get to know my clients. And if I detect that they might want some flexibility, then I might suggest that we look at some emerging brands. I wouldn't put them in front of, say, a Fast Signs. Fast Signs has been around forever, and they do have very strict guidelines. Whereas some maybe a brand that is maybe a couple of years old, they've been in business many years, but they've only been franchising for a few years, they might be more open. They might be a little more flexible. So for me, it's all about making sure that the franchise fits my clients. I'm not trying to plug them just into something. It has to fit them.
Right, and I think that is critical, and that's hard, in my opinion, as I've talked to people who've done this, to shop it yourself. It's real hard.
It absolutely, it is hard, because mainly if they go directly to the franchisor, they're going to get the brochure version. And I'm not going to give them the brochure version. I'm going to say, this is really not for you, and these are the reasons I see that it's not for you.
Well, that's invaluable, in my opinion. One of the things that you brought up to me is women in franchising. Of course, there's all over. In fact, the Wall Street Journal today has an article about that, and Sunday's Chronicle had an article about women running a company and this and that, and one of them was kind of funny. I need more he's. And that was interesting. So maybe the pendulum's starting to swing that, hey, it's just us. It's not
Right.
we or
Right.
address that for us.
So I think what happens sometimes is that women, we are natural relationship builders. We usually know our neighbors. We're usually down at the school making friends with the teachers and getting to know everybody. That's networking. That's networking. So women are really good at building those relationships and making connections. So they're just kind of a natural when it comes to owning their own business, and specifically in franchising, because what is some people don't realize is in franchising, it's like owning your own business, in that you still have to build the business. So you still have to have that face of the business. You still have to get out and join the chambers. You still have to be a part of the community. And I think women are natural community builders.
It's funny you should say that, but I'd say at least half, which the numbers have put in, like the local chamber, when we have a get-together, say a breakfast meeting, which is one of the more popular places just to come together and network, are women. I mean, they're out there, they're in business, and I think
Right.
it's wonderful.
Right.
I think it's wonderful. There's nothing to be afraid of, in my opinion, from that regard. Well, we've got a business. Is it a lifestyle business? That's one of my favorite topics. I bump into so many people, particularly those who've had years of experience, the older folks like myself, that it becomes more of a lifestyle versus, but where do you help, how do you help people understand? Is this just about your lifestyle? You're going to park the camper in the back of the business and you got the boat at the end of the business. I mean, those are obvious signs of lifestyle, but there are a lot of others.
Right.
Talk to us about the lifestyle and so on and so forth.
Right. So what I tell people is franchising, they can create a living, and that's where they've just changed one check for the other, and they have a business. They can create a lifestyle, and that's where they get to change their zip code, so to speak, move up a bit in the world, or they can create the legacy, and we kind of talked a little bit about that. I think, let me give you an example. I'm going to give you an example because many times stories will tell it a little bit clearer. I was working with an IT executive that had been downsized one time too many. He was in his 50s and probably not as employable as he was maybe 10 to 20 years prior to that. He decided he wanted to do franchising. He was interviewing franchise brokers, and I was the fourth one that he had interviewed that day. I knew I was the last one on the list. And so I knew he knew a lot about franchising, so it was going to be important for me to really understand him. So we have conversation. What does your life look like? Where are you in life? What do you want to do? He told me he had already reached out to 7-Eleven, to some of the other fast food places, and my first response to him was, "Why would you have done that?" And he was a little shocked. I believe that it's important for me to express my opinion because I kind of, that's why I'm there. And I said, well, you just told me that you have reconnected with your high school sweetheart. You're both single. You want to spend the rest of your life together. You will never be able to do that in any of those concepts that you told me about. You will be working long hours. And he says, well, Linda, see, the thing is that I want her to work with me. And I said, let me tell you, in a year, she may not be with you. So it's important to make sure that the business fits into your life, not your life fit into the business, because it'll destroy families, it'll destroy relationships, and you won't be successful. So if we can get a business that folds into your life, that makes more sense than trying to totally disrupt your life to make that work. So that's the way I approach a lifestyle in the business. Now, whether they want to expand their lifestyle after they have built this business for a year, 2 years, you got to see whether it's going to work first before you start buying those boats and those RVs.
Yeah, well, there's no doubt about it. And I think the idea that biggest thing I run into is I want flexibility to kind of come and go after I've got things up and running.
Yeah.
And that's difficult. It's achievable, but it depends. It's like going to get an ice cream cone at night or something and the owner's not around. There's kids in there and they're doing whatever. And some places do it well, most don't. And so you're turning your business, whatever it is, over to someone else. And that can be a challenge. But again, you accept a little bit less maybe when you're not there. It's very interesting. It's a very, very critical question.
But if flexibility is important, and it was to my client, and flexibility was important. So what I ended up putting him in was a commercial green cleaning company. So that because commercial buildings, they don't necessarily have to be cleaned on weekends. It gives him some flexibility during the week. And the amount of time that is required is less. So you have to look at how much time do they want to put into this. There again, it's about answering those questions first before you even look at a concept. I wouldn't put someone in a brick and mortar if they wanted a lot of flexibility. There's no flexibility with a brick and mortar because you have store hours, period, end of conversation.
Yeah, good point, good point. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're already to the end of our first segment today. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to talk to Linda a little bit more about franchising, also about a book that she's written. I think it's very interesting, and a few other basic concepts that are so important in business, such as networking. So please stay with us. We'll be right back with you.
It's all about business on the Weekly Business Hour every Monday at 11 a.m. on Lone Star Community Radio.
Don't forget to download the Lone Star Community Radio app for your Google Play or Apple Store. Bring Montgomery County's community radio with you anywhere with your smartphone or tablet. If you are in the Conroe area, tune in on FM. That is Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1.
We have the safest food supply in the world. Strict laws and regulations restrict the usage of hormones, antibiotics, and pesticides within our food supply. Production agriculture practices and technologies such as the use of GMOs, which is not any more or less risky than conventional crop production, has allowed American farmers to produce more food on less acres in environmentally sound ways. Find out more online at pathtotheplate.tamu.edu. We are Texas A&M Agri-Life Extension, helping Texans make lives better.
Hi, I'm Keith O'Connell, CEO coach and business mentor. I've spent 4 decades helping multiple entrepreneurs use my principles to take their businesses to the next level. My methods do not fix your problems, they help you fix them for yourself. I call this process closing strong. Contact me at 713-557-1639 or visit my website at closingstrong.com for a risk-free 30-minute meeting to see how I can help you. Because a business can only go as far as its leader can take it.
The Texas A&M Agri-Life Extension Service has been dedicated to educating Texans for over a century. In 1915, the Extension Program was established under the federal Smith-Lever Act to deliver university knowledge and agricultural research findings directly to the people. Ever since, Agri-Life Extension programs have addressed the emerging issues of the day, serving diverse populations across the state. Texans turn to Extension for solutions in horticulture, agriculture, 4-H and youth, and family and consumer sciences. Extension agents respond not only with answers, but also with resources and services that result in significant returns on investment to boost the economy. Join us Fridays at 1 o'clock for the Agri-Life Extension Hour.
For business ideas and news you can use, join us on the Weekly Business Hour every Monday at 11 a.m. on Lone Star Community Radio.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the Weekly Business Hour, and I'm Rick Schissler. I'm your host, and we're having a wonderful conversation here with Linda Ballesteros. Linda's a certified franchise broker and host of All Things Franchising radio show. And before we continue that conversation, I want to make sure that you know, again, that you can email us at that's the number 1, bestconsult.com with any thoughts, comments about the show, or just a general business question. I love to get those. So please drop us your emails at bestconsult.com. Well, Linda, when we took the break, we talked about various aspects, got kind of specific too, which I think is wonderful, on franchising. To kind of finish that up, you've written a book. Talk about your book a little bit. The interesting title, Your Pot of Gold is a Handshake Away. I love it. Tell us about that.
Well, Your Pot of Gold is a Handshake Away came out of my networking and how it wasn't working and how I didn't understand. Coming out of 30 years in banking, I really didn't have a clue as to what networking was. You know, I thought networking was when you called the geeky guys and they came down and fixed your network. So I had to learn really quick how to be good at networking. And it's not as difficult as a lot of people think. It's about building relationships. And that's what my book, Your Pot of Gold is a Handshake Away, is about, is many times that it's just a handshake away from finding that referral partner, finding that person that's going to open up doors for you. So making sure that you're in the community, that you're networking in those groups that actually would have a referral partner for you. That's what I go looking for. I'm not looking to sell you my widget. I am looking for us to collaborate and sell our widgets together.
Well, and I think that's a goal. Like you say, it could be just that next person you meet.
Absolutely.
And you never know. And that one connection pays off so well. Plus, I love the fact you're not selling a product or service directly, as most of the people in the room typically are.
Right.
Gives you a real opportunity. Well, let's take a minute. I mean, you are a coach as well. and we'll kind of go back into the networking. You're a professional life coach. Talk about that part of what you do in your life and why that's so important to someone who works with you.
Sure. When I was actually in the life coach and the coaching industry before I got into franchising. So when I lost my husband in 2016, my financial advisor says, "Hey, Linda, what are you going to do?" And I said, I don't know, but I know I'm not through yet. I am not done. And he introduced me to my mentor now, who was a franchise broker. And when he started talking about the conversation that he had with people, I thought, well, that's the same conversation I have with my coaching clients. It's just at the end of it, I would say, now that we've identified where your strengths are, where your passion is, and what you want your lifestyle to look like, I would say, go find that. And now I can say, let's see if we can find that in my portfolio, because I've got about 400 brands in my portfolio right now. So it's just a matter of helping people to identify where their strengths are and where they need to go, because otherwise they just kind of spin around and they're not really sure what their options are and they don't know what to choose.
You know, that really is neat that you provide that. I hadn't thought of it that way, to provide that next step. Mm-hmm. Help me connect with, as you mentioned, over 400
Right.
opportunities there to connect, because you're right, you can lead people to the water, but you can't make them drink. Or
Right.
I see this all the time in the work I do. I'm more on the operational side and helping people build processes within their business. And I love it. It's a magic bullet almost that you can take them and say, here's some choices. I love that.
I appreciate it.
Talk about your success. Talk about it. I skipped over that in the last segment, but in your success in bringing people to that right business, that right franchise.
What I love doing, and I've got clients that years later have said, Linda, thanks so much because it's given us some freedom. But one of the things that I do with my clients, unlike other brokers, is I stay on with them as a coach for 3 to 6 months afterwards, because I want to make sure that they're successful. Again, just because they've come out of corporate, they've been an executive in corporate, and highly successful, we get them into the perfect franchise for them. Walking away from that, it doesn't necessarily mean that they'll be successful. I want to still help them because they don't know about networking. They don't know about how to get out into the community. They don't know how to align themselves with nonprofits and do runs and, are out there supporting the community. So it's about making sure they understand that it's more than just signing on the dotted line and I've got a successful business. So it's making sure they have all the tools and the knowledge to keep going forward from there.
Yeah, and like you say, that's so important to people. And many times people, I've seen this with franchises. They get the franchise, sign on the dotted line,
Yeah.
like you said, write that first check or whatever, and then they're just there. They've got a playbook, but nobody coaching them.
That's correct. That's
That
correct.
happens.
It does happen. Not under my watch, it doesn't, but that does happen. And I've heard horror stories of people that have had to take bankruptcy because one, maybe were in the wrong industry, put in the wrong franchise. Two, they didn't understand having a brick and mortar and you sign a lease, a 5-year lease, that you're responsible for that 5-year lease. So those are things that I discuss with my clients before, just to make sure that they've got more of the information they need to make a good decision.
Well, the tremendous value, I would say, that you add based on my experience and what makes sense to provide that value to people to help guide them. Because coming out of corporate America, and I never worked in corporate, but I talk to way too many people who do it, and they need some help. They
Absolutely.
really need some help. We all need help. Yeah. Well, in the few minutes we got left, let's talk about your perspective on networking. You've written the book, Pot of Gold is a Handshake Away. Talk about why it's so important for these people, your new franchises or whoever, to be involved in strategic networking.
And I think the key there is strategic networking, because in the beginning, you know that you can network from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. or later. And I did that in the beginning because I was told that's what I needed to do. Well, that didn't work for me. And I was burnt out. Within a few months, I was just burnt out. So I started looking at the groups that would have more impact on my business, that I knew that I could find either my potential client or referral partner there. So let me give you an example of that. So if I make hot dogs, and I tell you what, Rick, I make the best hot dogs. I sell great hot dogs, all the toppings, perfect hot dogs. I have a friend calling, Linda, would you like to go networking with me tonight? Of course, I go networking everywhere. Everybody knows I'll go with you. And I get there, and it's an all-vegan networking group. So I could hang around hoping that I could find a vegan who's married to a big football player that loves to watch football and eat hot dogs on the weekends, but chances are all of that time is not going to pay off. So my point here is to make sure that the people that you're networking with are in your industry. Maybe you want to look for a power team. You want to build that power team. And the best way I can explain that is everybody understands that real estate power team where you've got the realtor, you've got the inspector, you've got the title company, you've got all of those people that support that transaction. I would encourage anyone who's in business, think about who your power team is and be strategic when you go out networking. Look for that person. If you're standing in front of someone, say, hey, I'm looking for an estate planning attorney. I'd love to meet one. Do you know if there's one here? Would you introduce me? So that's more strategic networking than to just go to a big event and just hope you bump into the right person.
Yeah, that's interesting because occasionally there'll be large events, and I've often thought about that, go and there's several hundred people now. Where am I going to find? Absolutely. First of all, how am I going to get through that group to find? Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure that's the right place for me to be in that large group, unless it's just to have fun or something, which that's the default. People go to networking things to...
And you know, Rick, there is nothing wrong with that. Some people say, oh, networking doesn't work. Well, if it's for social purposes, then it is working. And it's okay to say that. But what I tell people is when you go into a 100 or 200 room with 200 people, take 3 business cards. That's it, just 3 business cards. Be strategic with who you hand those to and go home. Just go home. You don't have to be there until they turn the lights out.
Yeah, it's a wonderful point, and it's a great thing. Well, Linda, I deeply appreciate you coming today and visiting with us, and love to have you back on the show sometime in the future if your travels will allow that.
We'd love to, Rick.
If people want to reach out to you and connect with you, either to get a franchise or what are the other things you do, what's the best way for them to do it?
Sure. You can check out my website. That's Empower Franchise Consulting. That's the letter M, the word power, franchiseconsulting.com. You can email me at linda@empowerfranchiseconsulting.com. And my phone number is 832-640-4922.
Well, Linda, thank you so much. And I want to mention to our listeners, a podcast, video cast of today's show will be posted on Wednesday. One of the places you can find it is my website. That's onebestconsult.com. There are a lot of other places on social media, but you can go to onebestconsult.com and find a video cast of today's show if you missed something, or in particular if you'd like to share it. So please do that. What's coming up in the second half of the show today in our Did You Know series, I will ask and answer the question, why don't you contact your customer more often? And in the One Best Consult tip of the week, what do you really need to know to make your business successful? That one, I think, is going to be a key one. So just 2 or 3 things that I feel are extremely important. Got to have them. So please, appreciate it. If you'll stick around, we're going to take our bottom of the hour break, and we'll be right back with you.
Not sure who to turn to when you have a problem in your business? Listen to the Weekly Business Hour on Lone Star Community Radio.
Lone Star Community Radio is Montgomery County's radio station with talk, music, weather, and traffic for Montgomery County. Have a question, comment about one of our shows? Want to know how to reach a host? Just contact the station on irlonestar.com or call in and leave a message at 936-647-3776. Get involved with your community with Lone Star Community Radio.
Hi, I'm Keith O'Connell, CEO, coach, and business mentor. I've spent 4 decades helping multiple entrepreneurs use my principles to take their businesses to the next level. My methods do not fix your problems, they help you fix them for yourself. I call this process closing strong. Contact me at 713-557-1639 or visit my website at closingstrong.com for a risk-free 30-minute meeting to see how I can help you. Because a business can only go as far as its leader can take it.
Hey guys, this is Connor.
This is Dick.
This is Chris. And we're with the Ticket Stub Podcast every Thursday live at noon on 104.5 and 106.1 FM in the Conroe area. Also, anytime at irlonestar.com. You go to irlonestar.com/TTS. You can find all of our social media.
And don't forget, we give away 2 tickets to the Grand Theater on every show.
If you like movies and you like complaining or celebrating anything that has to do with the silver screen, check out the Ticket Stub Podcast and join us every Thursday at noon o'clock on Lone Star Community Radio.
Lone Star Boxer Rescue is a nonprofit organization serving Montgomery County and surrounding areas, dedicated to the health and well-being of the boxer breed. Lone Star Boxer Rescue is run and managed 100% by volunteers since 1999. Our main objective is to rescue, rehabilitate, and rehome boxers that come to us from many sources, including local animal shelters, owner surrenders, and strays. For more information about Lone Star Boxer Rescue, visit our website at lsbr.org.
It's all about business on the Weekly Business Hour every Monday at 11 a.m. on Lone Star Community Radio.
You are listening to the Weekly Business Hour, and this is Rick Schissler, your host. I'm a Silver Fox advisor and the founder of OneBestConsult.com. Well, again, thank you for listening to today's show. We're going to start off this segment talking a little bit about what you just heard about franchising, because I've got some strong feelings about whether you decide to take your business or start your business with a franchise versus a startup of your own. I want to share my thoughts with you and observations. But before we do that, I want to remind you again that the podcast, video cast of the show, it will be posted at YouTube on the Weekly Business Hour channel. So you can go to YouTube as well as my website, the station's website, lots of places, but go to YouTube on the Weekly Business Hour channel. Subscribe, be a member, and get notifications of when we post new shows. I also want to thank again our sponsor, Keith O'Connell. Keith O'Connell is CEO, coach, and business mentor. His company, Closing Strong, where they cater to you and the growth of your business. Keith's an executive coach who's spent over 4 decades helping multiple entrepreneurs use the same principles to take their businesses to the next level. Keith's personal philosophy is, it is really not about me because I'm not going to fix your problems. I'm going to help you fix them for yourself. Known Keith for a long time. He delivers what he says. He has helped so many businesses and to move to that next level, to pull it all together, and I really love his use of purpose. What is our purpose? What is your purpose to make sure you and your business are on the same track for your purpose? Thank you again, Keith. Appreciate having you as a sponsor for today's show. Okay, let's do that rehash of what we just heard about franchising. That is, we discussed, that Linda and I discussed, is a basic choice you have when you start a business. You can either start it yourself, handle everything from A to Z, from getting the location to signing the lease, to stocking the store with the products you think that are going to work, or you set up your service that you're going to provide and hire and train your people and do it all yourself with little or no guidance at all unless you have a mentor or coach. Or you can go find a franchise that fits what you are trying to accomplish, what's important to you. And Linda made an outstanding point, and I hope you hear this if you're at that point or some point in the future. Make sure that the franchise, if you go that route, and I'll say even the business that you're going into, make sure it fits with what you are all about. And this is kind of that personal purpose thing we've talked about on the show. Keith O'Connell was kind enough to come on, and we did a soup to nuts conversation. It's a very important thing, I think. It's probably at the core of what your business should be about, and that is that the personal purpose, your desires, what you want to achieve with your life, not just with your business, but your personal life, your family, are all considered when you choose what kind of business that you go into. And this is what someone like Linda, as a franchise broker, can help you do. They can help you consider these different aspects of your life and what you are really, really deep down inside looking for. You may not realize it yourself, but you need to know it before you decide to either open a business on your own or buy a franchise. Several quick things I want to mention. First of all, when you sit down and look at franchise versus your own startup, look at the cost. What is it going to cost you the first year to be a franchise? What would it cost you? And these are going to be estimates, rough estimates at best, of what is it going to cost you to open that business on your own. In my opinion, no doubt you're going to see the franchise going to be more expensive up front. You've got to buy the franchise. Typically, you pay a percentage of what you sell. There are other considerations. It's first year. As time plays out, though, you amortize, if you will, that upfront cost over 2, 3, 5, 10 years, and you will see that a franchise, in many cases, particularly if you don't like doing certain things, they provide the systems and can show you and set you up, say on the accounting. That's one thing that good salespeople typically are not as strong in accounting, but they put together a system to order your supplies you need to keep so your stock doesn't deplete, those kind of things. So that's the cost. First year cost, probably the lower cost is going to be to open yourself, but you're going to most likely make some mistakes. That the franchise system, that's what they're charging for, is to help you reduce your mistakes and to help you, if done right, to be more successful. Second thing is the franchise will give you that built-in assistance and guidance. The good franchise operators out there, the franchisors, are people like Linda who want you to be successful. They're not just trying to collect fees, okay? They want you to be successful because that is part of their track record that they have to explain, that they have to disclose by law. So if you fail, then you go on one side of the ledger, but if you're successful, you're on the other side of the ledger. So consider that. And the last thing, and we touched on a little bit in our conversation with Linda, is franchisors have rules. They have guidelines, things that they expect their franchises to follow. And like Linda said, older, more established franchises typically are more strict in what they have. So if you are, in fact, a creative person, or you're going into a market that might be somewhat different than where that franchise has been operating in the past, you need to consider that. Because again, I've talked to franchise owners who have said they felt they were being restricted and that it was hurting their business in certain areas. So it's a consideration. It should be disclosed up front so you have a chance to look at it and make a decision whether it fits you. We're going to take a real short break, and when we come back, I'm going to do a kind of a thumbnail on a did you know, why don't you contact your customers more often? That's a great question for any business. Why don't you contact your customers more often? Please stay with us, and we'll be right back with you.
Not sure who to turn to when you have a problem in your business? Listen to the Weekly Business Hour on Lone Star Community Radio.
Are you interested in learning more about preparing quick, healthy, and safe meals for your family? Would you like to spend time with others learning tips and tricks, along with practicing and tasting nutritious food? If so, the On the Road to Healthy Living Mobile Cooking School is for you. Call Amy Ressler at Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service at 936-539-7825 to find a class near you or volunteer to host a class.
Hi, I'm Keith O'Connell, CEO, coach, and business mentor. I've spent 4 decades helping multiple entrepreneurs use my principles to take their businesses to the next level. My methods do not fix your problems, they help you fix them for yourself. I call this process Closing Strong. Contact me at 713-557-1639 or visit my website at closingstrong.com for a risk-free 30-minute meeting to see how I can help you. Because a business can only go as far as its leader can take it.
A Lone Star Community Radio is looking for those who are interested in hosting their own talk show, with monthly and weekly slots available on Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1, and on irlonestar.com. Start your own podcast, create your first YouTube channel, and be on TV. Contact Lone Star Community Radio online at irlonestar.com or call the station message line at 936-647-3776 to take your first step into the radio world.
It's all business talk on the Weekly Business Hour every Monday at 11 a.m. right here on Lone Star Community Radio.
You are listening to the Weekly Business Hour. This is Rick Schissler, your host. Word of that part of the program, did you know? And I want to make sure we get that in. But before we do that, I need you to remember that you and your company can be a sponsor of the Weekly Business Hour, just like Keith O'Connell and Closing Strong. If you're a local Montgomery County business, I think it's a great way to put your business out there, particularly if you do business with other business owners. So please think about us. And if you'd like to consider it, just send me an email at onebestconsult@gmail.com. That's one, the number one, bestconsult@gmail.com, and I'll send you some information, see if we can get you set up to be a sponsor of the Weekly Business Hour. Well, did you know, and I guess it's more of a question, why don't you contact your customers more often? The first question I have for you under that is, do you know how many times you currently contact your existing customers? In other words, do you contact them once a week, once a month, 10 times a year, 5 times a month? I encourage you, try to figure that out. It's not hard. You may have thousands of customers. Just take a sample of 100. Maybe the 100 best customers by volume or number of orders or both. It's not a hard thing to do, but it's important. And what you're trying to do is determine, okay, this is not an inbound order, this is not a service call, but how many times do we send out information, either emails or print or whatever medium, do we send out to let that customer know we're still here, that we may have some specials, some kind of special pricing, or opportunities for them to participate in a program, whatever it may be. But ask yourself and determine how often. It's very important. What is the advantage of more contact? I mean, it's sort of self-explanatory. The fact that if you're, first of all, I'll contend that most businesses are rarely reaching out. Now, the big guys, they have all kinds of automated email and whatnot that maybe is beyond your reach as a small business. But the fact is that once a week, once a month, every other week, whatever the time frame, there's no magic. It really depends on your business and what your philosophy is as far as marketing and so on and so forth. But consistently, and that's a key word here, consistency, as it is in many areas, consistently reach out and contact that customer. Again, the format's up to you. Print, direct mail, whatever it might be, an ad in the Sunday paper, email, it doesn't matter. My recommendation is always a combination of, so it's not always emails that are getting discarded perhaps too easily. And the third thing I think is, what would it take for your business to contact your customers more often? Ask yourself that question. First, you've got the number of times you're already doing it, and I'll contend in a vast majority of cases it's nowhere near enough. And the question is, what's enough? It's that one measure of that is that these existing customers are continuing to do business with you. They're continuing to buy more from you. They're continuing to refer you. You can analyze that, okay? You don't have to have a computer program to do that. They do exist. But the fact is, on the back of a piece of paper, and you look at your statistics and you determine your best customers and try to get more than 2 or 3 or 5 if you do have that many customers, maybe 50, 100, something like that. That's a back of a pad calculation. And the fact is that maybe you just up the number of contacts every month by 1. Maybe it's just sending out a different kind of offer, or, hey, just checking in to see how you're doing, whatever it is. Lots of choices, but lots of opportunities. So what would it take? And I contend there are three things. Make it fun. In other words, make it fun that whatever you deliver, whatever the contact, somehow is light and easy. Okay, it's fun. Second, it's informative. Whatever you use in your messaging to contact them, whatever format you take, it's informative. And lastly, it's lucrative. In other words, it's lucrative. There's value there for them to be your customer, whether they buy as a direct result of the contact or the fact that you're building loyalty. So they'll buy seasonally or they'll buy annually or whatever the normal trend in your business is. These people will remain loyal to you because when you're not sending out messaging, when you're not communicating, I guarantee you a competitor or maybe more than one is trying to reach that customer. So reach out, contact your customers more often than you're doing now. I want to move into our One Best Consult tip of the week. This is entitled, What Do You Really Need to Know to Make Your Business Successful? When you start a business, most of us read a book, we attended a seminar, a webinar, we went to business school, we worked in a corporate environment, whatever it was, we had some idea of what it would take to be successful in business. And I'm not really talking necessarily about just the nuts and bolts, like enough money, this and that. What I'm talking about is really what is it going to take for you, and I'm speaking directly to you, to be successful in your business. And I believe there are three things, and there may be more for sure, but three things always stick out to me. And they're things that a lot of times people don't carefully consider when they should or could. There are things that they could get assistance, that they could have an advisor or mentor like myself to help them to hone and get a better feel, get more quality information so they can make a better decision. But so many times they're just in a hurry. And the first one to me is quite easy, and that is to get educated. Get as much information as you can. Read as much as you can. Contact and talk to people as much as you can about the business, the industry, the idea that you're simply going into business. Make yourself feel like you know what's going on. Don't need to be an expert, but make sure you have a comfortable sense, if you will, of what's going on in that business world that you're getting ready to enter, whether you're a franchise or a startup. Make sure that you are educated and continue your education forever. When you're in business, don't turn your back to reading an article or attending an industry convention or watching a webinar to help increase your skills and ability in a particular area like human resources, the hiring and firing of employees. You have to realize that you need to connect with education. You need to start by learning before you start the business and then continue it, perhaps at a kind of a lower level, slower pace after you have the business, but never, ever stop learning. The second thing is, I think, missed by a lot of business, and that's location. When we're opening a storefront, location, 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 we talk about it. Retail, location, location, location. Real focus. But I believe that location for almost every kind of business, whether you have a warehouse, manufacturing facility, whatever it is, it can have a real impact on the success of your business. Now, for example, you're a distributor. So you take goods in, you repackage maybe, and then you ship them out. The fact that you locate your business closer to the logistics and the sources of transportation, it was going to have an impact. It's going to impact the cost of shipping those goods out. It's going to impact the cost potentially of those goods being shipped to you. It's going to impact your ability to hire people, to hire qualified people. I had a situation once in my career where we had a great idea to go build a manufacturing facility out in a rural area, not far from a major metropolitan area, but the idea was the property, the real estate was inexpensive. It was in a business park. And so we could build, say, 20% cheaper. But what we found is the labor market didn't support, it wasn't educated enough to support the business that we were trying to operate, the manufacturing, the custom manufacturing we were trying to do. And that was a huge mistake. So make sure your location supports your business, that it is a plus for your business. Again, we talk about it in retail a lot, but it applies to almost every business. Location is critical, very critical to the success, the long-term success of a business. And last but not least, make sure always hire, train, and keep the best employees. It's not about paying as little as you can. It's about keeping the best people you can keep. Keep these things in mind as you go through your business and you seek success. Learn, location, and having the best employees possible. Well, I'm going to close out the show today. I ask you to please put a note on your calendar to join us next Monday right here on irlonestar.com at 11 a.m. Our special guest will be Adam Cook with Cook Insurance Group, who will join us to talk about the ups and downs of the commercial insurance for your business. And remember, you and your company can sponsor the Weekly Business Hour. Just drop me an email at onebestconsult.com. Thank you for joining us, and remember to stay what's happening in Montgomery County right here on Lone Star Community Radio. And until next week, as always, stay engaged and keep your focus on what counts in your business. Thanks.
Today's show was recorded and broadcasted live on irlonestar.com, Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1, and all rights and ownership are reserved to Lone Star Community Radio. For more information regarding this program and Lone Star Community Radio, visit us online at irlonestar.com. Lone Star Community Radio is Montgomery County's community radio station, serving the community with local programming on TV, radio, and online. If you enjoyed today's program, please support us by sponsorship or starting your own show. Contact us today by phone or text at 936-666-1084 or email the station at lscrstudios@gmail.com.